And reading that document, you know, I thought Joe Biden won the Democrat primaries. But looking at their unity agenda, it looks to me like Bernie won. When you look at their agenda, the only thing that ended up unifying was Joe Biden to the radical left. Joe Biden has referred to himself as a transition candidate. But many were asking, across this country, a transition to what? And now we have the answer. Recently, Joe Biden combined forces with the socialist Bernie Sanders and the radical left wing of the Democratic Party. And we don't need to guess where they're planning to take America. You won't be safe in Joe Biden's America. The radical left's experiment in defunding the police is failing families and cities across this country already. Recently, amid defunding efforts around America, cities are struggling with rising crime rates. After years of plummeting crime rates under President Donald Trump, Joe Biden would double down on the very policies that are leading to unsafe streets and violence in America's cities. When you hear Joe Biden call for defunding the police, remember what's at stake. Law and order, safety, the peace of mind that you, your family, and your children have every right to enjoy as citizens of this country. When you consider Joe Biden's agenda and his embrace of the radical left, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than an auto-pen president, a Trojan horse for a radical agenda, so radical, so all-encompassing that it would transform this country into something utterly unrecognizable. It's no wonder that socialist Bernie Sanders said that if Joe Biden was elected, he would, in his words, transform the country and be, and I quote, the most progressive president in nearly a century. The Biden-Sanders agenda would set America on the path of socialism and decline. And as our nation endures this time of testing, we do well to tell our neighbors and friends that it's also a time for choosing. We need to tell our fellow Americans that we can choose to stay on a path that starts from the belief in the goodness of the American people, that starts from the premise that America is exceptional, is founded on freedom, and always striving for a more perfect union. Just last week, President Trump spoke at a roundtable with a Cuban immigrant by the name of Maximo Alvarez. Maximo escaped communist Cuba when he was 13. He was one of the last kids to flee with a group of nuns whose convent had been taken over by the communist dictator that Bernie Sanders praised in the past. Maximo had a stark warning for our country at that forum. He said, and I quote, "What's happening in our backyard today, I experienced as an 11-year-old. Maximo went on to say, "I remember vividly all the promises that Castro gave. I remember the promises that we hear today about free education, free health care, free land." And then he recalled what his father told him about the glory of being an American. Maximo said that his father told him, "Don't lose that place. Because if you lose that place, you'll have no place to go." America is a beacon of hope and freedom for all the world. Maximo's admonition reminds us of the words of another Republican president who famously reminded us But freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or President Reagan added, one day we'll spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like to live in the United States when men were free. We have to fight for our freedom again. President Ronald Reagan was right in his time. And I promise you, that fighter in the White House will never stop fighting for freedom. President Donald Trump will continue to fight for the freedom of every American. And so we must fight with him. So my fellow Americans, that's the choice we face. We have two paths before us. One of freedom and opportunity, the other of socialism and decline. We can either be true to ourselves and what's made this nation a beacon of hope for all the world, or we can become like the very places that many of our ancestors fled, and that many still flee to come here. In pondering the decision that lies before us, I can't help but think of the words of the great American poet, Robert Frost, my wife's favorite poet. He wrote, and I quote, "Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." The truth is, through the long and storied history of this country, Americans have always chosen the road less traveled by, the road of freedom, individual responsibility. And I know we will do so again. I know this because, like our president and those who founded the Republican Party so many years ago here in Ripon, I believe in freedom. And I know this is a freedom-loving nation. I know the love of freedom beats in the heart of every American. And I know we will choose well again in this November because I have faith. Faith that every time the American people have given the choice between more freedom and less freedom, they stand for freedom. They fight for freedom. And they choose freedom every single time. Oh, this is a freedom-loving nation. It's also a nation of faith. And it's on that hope I stand as well. The Bible says where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. And so millions of Americans believe, as I do, that when we stand up for the God-given freedoms of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, the freedoms won and defended throughout our nation's history, we make His work on this earth our own. And that means freedom always wins. So that's the choice we face, my fellow Americans, between freedom and opportunity or socialism and decline. And I have no doubt, as all of us do all that we can, even in these challenging times, between now and November 3rd, we'll see our way through. We'll be there for our neighbors and friends. We will heal our land, and then we will win a great victory for freedom and our very way of life. And with President Donald Trump in the White House for 4 more years, we'll make America great again. Again. Our economic recovery is on the ballot. but also are things far more fundamental and foundational to our country. You know, it's not so much whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, more Republican or Democrat, more red or blue. It's whether America remains America. It's whether we will leave to our children and our grandchildren a country grounded in our highest ideals of freedom, free markets, and the unalienable right to life and liberty, or whether we will leave to our children and grandchildren a country that is fundamentally transformed into something else. Like those first Republicans, we stand at a crossroads of freedom. Before us are two paths, one based on the dignity of every individual, and the other on the growing control of the state. Our road leads to greater freedom and opportunity. Their road leads to socialism and decline. President Trump set our nation on a path to freedom and opportunity from the very first day of this administration. But Joe Biden would set America on a path of socialism and decline. America is a blessed and exceptional country, unique among the nations. We've been an asylum of hope for millions around the world, yearning to breathe free, as the words on the Statue of Liberty declare. Many of our greatest citizens have come from corners of the world ruled by socialist regimes. If you ever doubt whether this country is special and unique, just talk to one of them.
We will make America great again.